Hello, everybody. We're doing this from inside because for the last 2 days, we've gotten an incredible amount of rain,
Yes.
thunder,
It's been pretty bad.
lightning, power going out. Every time we go to record something, just pure downfall, no vehicles to pick us up to go anywhere. It's been interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, we were literally waiting for an e-trike and then it started pouring.
Yeah, after 20 minutes of waiting.
Yeah, because obviously we're on the end, not where all the tourists are.
Right, exactly. So here we are. We finally got the power back on. It's still a little crazy out there, so we thought, okay, let's record this, and then we'll head into town and we'll see if we can make something for tomorrow's video. That would be great because we didn't want to miss yesterday's, but unfortunately we did.
Yeah.
Today we're going to do something fun from a foreigner's perspective, and I want you to keep this in mind, and keep in mind also we are law-abiding citizens. Even if we think a law seems a little crazy to us or a little strange, it does not mean we will not follow the law. We are in the Philippines. We will follow the law of the land. So we are not criticizing. We are just saying, as a foreigner's perspective, they seem a little strange to us. Not that it's a problem. So let's start off with something fun here, something that a lot of people are interested in when it comes to coming to the Philippines, and that is marriage. Nobody comes to the Philippines to get married ever, do they?
No, it's unheard of. No one ever gets married.
Totally unheard of.
Here.
So as recently as 2021, marriage was outlawed for anybody under the age of 18.
Oh.
Also, Filipinos cannot live together until they're of the age 18, unless they're family, obviously.
Right.
But they are now, after age of 18, out of wedlock. That is allowed. The interesting thing is that if you are 18 to 20 years old as a Filipino male and you want to get married, you must have a letter of consent, and this is key, from someone who has authority over you. And that is typically your parents, unless you don't have parents for some reason.
Guardians.
And you have a guardian, exactly. Otherwise, you cannot get married without it. Now, like I said, Filipino males between the age of 18 to 20. Once they become 20 years old, well, a male Filipino, age 20 to 24, or a female, aged 18 to 22, so females have a different rule, has one of two choices. They must either have a letter of advice from someone who has authority over them, typically parents, and so that is a little different from the original one where we were saying consent. In this case, the letter must be of advice from their parents or guardians. Or they will have to wait 3 months from the date of the marriage application.
Honestly.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
It isn't actually bad because a lot of people will race to get married and then realize they can't even stand each other. That kind of thing.
That's why divorce is so
rampant. Yeah, in the West. Yeah, exactly.
But I quite like that.
And then I think there's an extra part to this. And I think it's also you have 90 days to realize that your parents may never speak to you again if you get married, and you might change your mind for that reason. And you might be in one mood at one moment, but after a couple months, you're like, oh, I got to keep my mother happy. You never know. So yeah, again, that's very interesting because it's a different rule for male Filipinos and female Filipinos for marriage.
I think it is smart though, because like you said, people like rushing into things and sometimes without enough time to think it over. Yeah. It's a big decision, but many people don't treat it as such, and therefore it has problems in the end.
Yeah, exactly. So technically, if you're a female, age 23, then you have no hassles. You can just get married. And if you're a Filipino, 25 years old, then you can have no hassles and you can get married.
Right. Not bad.
So there you go. That is our number 10 in our top 10 of unusual laws here in the Philippines. Let's get to
number 9.
Yeah, let's go to number 9. Okay. And for number 9, let's talk about offending religious feelings. Okay? Not many people realize this is a law. And you know, the cool thing about these type of laws and understanding them as a foreigner coming here is ignorance is actually not a defense in the law. And so when you have these type of laws that might seem a little obscure and could be used against you, it's important that you get to learn them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so this law actually goes all the way back to the Spanish era. And during that period, they had a law that gave a maximum period to prison. Back then it was called prison correctional. In its minimum period shall be imposed upon anyone who, in place of devoted to religious worship, so, a church or so on,
yeah,
or during any celebration of any religious ceremony, shall perform acts notoriously offensive to the feelings of the faithful.
That's actually not bad.
Yeah. So it's the first time I've ever heard of a law very specific like this.
Yes,
that goes against hurting someone's feelings criminally. And so that's Article 133 of the revised Penal Code, if you want to look it up.
But the good thing is this is notoriously offensive. So nobody can just be like, that's offensive to me. And then, like, in a religious sense, it has to be something that's, like,
notoriously offensive to that religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least they do have that kind of clause.
True. Another one that's interesting that was just overturned. So we're not going to put this as number 8. But I thought it deserved a mention because just recently it was overturned. But it used to be that a widow must observe 301-day rule before marrying again.
Less than a year.
It is less than a year. But having a law that says that you can't get remarried did make it an unusual law, especially if you're a widow and say you don't have a lot of resources and you're a senior and you have someone who is willing to step in and together you guys can make things, a lot easier on your lives or something like that. So they did get rid of that enforced mourning period because they felt like it was not really the place of the government.
Right.
So
some people don't need 301 days to mourn.
No. Well, and especially if it's a long period, they're ill for a very long time, and they've both have accepted the time has come.
Yes.
And everything.
Yeah.
You never know. It's hard to make judgments.
Yeah, it's good because some people may forever not go into another marriage, but it's up to them, you know, whether they want to or not.
Yeah, not the state.
Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of that, I'm going to actually jump into we'll make number 8 this one because this one's quite interesting because it goes to exactly what you just said there. The state is actually a third party in all marriages here in the Philippines. The reason is they have Section 2, Article 15 of the 1987 Constitution. It states that marriage as an inviolable social institution is the foundation of the family and shall be protected by the state.
Of course.
And the reason for that wording means, and the Supreme Court upheld this, I should say, in 1997. And they stated that any doubt should be resolved in favor of the existence and continuation of the marriage and against its dissolution and nullity. Nullity. I think I said that right. And then also part of that same judgment by that Supreme Court, they also said that the Solicitor General must provide a representative at the time of any annulment and be able to provide counsel and represent the state on their behalf. And so the state will always be a third party.
Third wheeling.
Yeah, third wheeling in every marriage here in the Philippines.
I mean, I do understand where they're coming from, as in marriage is important, especially to the government. But the fact that they're over your shoulder almost.
Yeah.
Just watching.
Well, and they're there telling the judge yes or no too. So
yeah.
It's quite interesting. So I thought you'd like that. So let's go to number 7. By the way, you're going to want to wait for that number 1. It is a doozy.
I'm excited then. I'm excited.
I haven't shown her yet, so she is actually excited.
Yes, I know.
Let's do number 7. We will talk about libel. Do you know what libel is?
Lying, slander?
Yeah,
yes,
slander,
yeah.
exactly. Saying something about somebody that could be a half-truth, it could be a total not truth, that kind of thing.
Right.
Generally, in North America, you have to sue somebody civilly in order to get any damages or anything, and it's very difficult to do because you have to actually prove that the damages that you want. So if you want $1 million, you have to prove that those words they used against you cost you $1 million. And so it's very difficult Everybody's seen it with the Amber Heard trial,
Right.
Johnny Depp
It's
thing.
going on right
Yeah,
now.
it's pretty intense, and it's a huge process that most
Yeah.
people are not willing to go through it.
Right.
But there is Republic Act 10175. It is a punishment for libel. And in Article 355 of the revised Penal Code, that part there dates all the way back to the Spanish era.
Ah, another Spanish era.
Exactly. When your honor meant everything. And if somebody disparaged your honor in some way, you could challenge them to a duel. And the reason is the person disparaging you was committing libel, which was criminal. And therefore, you were allowed to meet your justice by having a duel.
Very cool.
So you would think that nowadays that wouldn't be used anymore. Who's doing duels anymore? Those kind of things. But there have been some people within the government who don't like other people in the government talking bad about them, and they've used this law to try to get the authorities to charge the other person with libel. So there is a big push right now for decriminalizing this libel so that you would have to take them to court like anybody else.
Like
and not just
people,
say, this person
countries.
said something bad about me, go arrest them, that kind
Right,
of thing.
right.
Because it could be abused, you can imagine.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
So that's an interesting one for number 7.
Very cool.
Number 6. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
This one might be very important to you.
Me? We'll see.
Did you know that you can charge people for being annoying?
I'm not annoying.
No? Okay.
Libel. I'm charging you with libel.
Oh, wow. That's true. Well, the second paragraph of Article 287 of the Penal Code states that any other coercion or unjust vexations shall be punished by arresto menor, or fine ranging from, get this, 5 pesos to 200 pesos. Or you can get both. So the problem with this law is that all the legal experts have looked through and tried to figure out and nail down what vexations specifically means.
Right.
The problem with vexations is it's like an ambiguous term.
It's very general.
It catches everything. It's a catch-all phrase.
Yeah, anything can vex you.
Right. And so people have used it to charge people for being annoying under that law.
Oh, if you were smart and you were like a kid in school, I would just charge everybody.
With vexation.
I'd be like, the annoying fee, hand it over.
That's right.
Instead of bullying, it's like legal battles.
You're taking their lunch money, but you don't get to take it. The government takes their lunch money, but they lose their lunch money.
Somebody wins.
Somebody wins. Anyway, that one's pretty fun and interesting. Let's go to number 5.
Number 5.
Okay, so we've been in Manila.
Yes.
Pretty crazy traffic there.
Chaotically.
Very chaotic. And so they have the Unified Vehicle Volume Reduction Program. So it's a law. It's not like the other one. It's not a criminal law or anything like that. But what it is vehicles with license plate ending in certain numbers were allowed on the streets on particular days.
Oh.
Yeah.
We were actually told about this.
That's right. The problem is they're having a big time enforcing this. And because people come from other cities into Manila, and they either aren't a part of it, or they have a different color coding scheme on their license plates.
Right.
And so it's very difficult to enforce. And so it has been having all kinds of problems, but the law still does exist.
And I remember she told us that people would get multiple cars.
Yes.
Or different licenses so they could have a different car every day.
Yes, exactly. So it's actually a law that hurts the poor more than the wealthy, because the wealthy can afford multiple cars, multiple parking spaces, like all these things that are very expensive.
Yeah, and the multiple parking spaces, it takes up, like, multiple cars equals more parking spaces needed, which means there's not a lot of room for other people, which is a negative
Yes,
as well.
Exactly. So the rich do get through with loopholes by having multiple vehicles with different license plate last 2 digits.
Could you imagine having a different car every day of the week?
Well, I don't know if it's every day of the week, but it might be
Or like a
you're allowed
couple
3 days
days.
a week, so you might have to
Yeah.
have 3 cars to make 7 days.
That's quite interesting. I
And
could never
excessive.
imagine that. Like in a city bigger than Toronto, having 3 different cars.
Oh, definitely.
Whoa.
Okay, so that was interesting.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a fun
very
fact.
neat.
And let's go to number 4. The
Let's
countdown
do
to
it.
number 1 is on
I'm
its way.
excited for number 1.
I know. I'm getting you excited.
All the good ones. All the good ones.
In 1997, there was a new law. That law made squatting no longer a crime.
Wow.
Republic Act 8368, which is also known as the Anti-Squatting Law Repeal Act of 1997. It repealed the previous President Marcos Presidential Decree 772, which penalized squatting, technically making it a non-crime as of today.
Oh.
There is a small little loophole in that for some property owners. If the people who are doing the squatting are professional squatters or syndicates, and so they do it on purpose in order to seize land and then seize this land and seize this land, and they do it in a professional manner, then they can still be charged. But yes, the law still stands right now that you can do squatting and not be charged.
Well, I mean, I am happy that like the squatters don't get in trouble. I do understand why it would be
The purpose
difficult.
for it,
Yeah, like I don't want squatters to get in trouble and have to go to jail because they're simply trying to survive.
Yes.
And I think there should be better like ways of helping them, you know, that don't negate somebody's owning
Yes.
of a property versus somebody just trying to live.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Remember
I
in
do-
Albania, they would give those that do not have a home, that kind of
Right.
thing. They'd set aside certain land where they could build their own
Right.
You know.
Right.
house structures on and try to help them out, because otherwise they would just be everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do understand why it's not criminalized,
Yes.
but I wish there was.
And
a
the
better
reason
system.
they made it a non-crime was they said that the squatters are also victims of an unequal justice and social system.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
exactly what you just said.
Yep.
So there you go.
I get
Another
it.
interesting one at number 4. Number
3.
3. That's correct. All right, here it goes. This is a real fun one. One that you may not even know exists, especially if you are a foreigner here in the Philippines.
Mm.
Did you know that Article 332 of the revised Penal Code, no criminal, but only civil liability, shall result from the commission of a crime of theft, swindling, or malicious mischief, committed or caused mutually by the following persons. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Your spouse,
Oh.
your ascendants or descendants, or relatives by affinity in the same line, so your whole family line. If any of them do a crime of theft against you, swindling, or malicious mischief,
Wow. They're not liable.
they are not liable under criminal code, only civil liability. Also, the widowed spouse, with respect to the property which belonged to the deceased spouse before the same, shall have passed into the possession of another. That one, I read it 3 different times over, and I didn't get it either. I don't understand. Please put it down in the comments below if that made any sense to you whatsoever. Who is protected there? Is it the person of the other? Is it? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Is it like if I like were to poison you for your land, am I okay? Like, is that what they're saying?
Yeah,
I don't know.
So somebody jump in there. I'll repeat it one more time. The widowed spouse, with respect to the property which belonged to the deceased spouse, before the same shall have passed into the possession of another.
It's like a riddle.
Yes. So if you know the answer to that riddle, jump on down below. Now, let's get to the fun one. And that is 3. Brothers and sisters and brothers-in-law and sister-in-law if living together. So if you move in your brother and sister-in-laws and they steal from you, there's no criminal charges. They're swindling you, no criminal charges, no malicious mischief at all. And the reason they did this whole thing is because, as you know, the Philippines puts family ahead of everything else. And so the ground of it is preserving family harmony and solidarity.
I quite think that's fair. You know,
Uh-huh.
I do understand it would not be nice to be swindled by your own family. But I feel like most people, if their family did steal from them or swindled them, they wouldn't actually like go for it. Like, you know, they wouldn't actually charge their family.
I'm sure, but there are a lot of cases where, especially when there's a death in the family or something,
That it
and
can get
the other
chaotic.
person isn't, used to taking care of themselves, that kind of thing, and relied on the other person who passed
Right,
away,
right.
the rest of the family swoops in, and next thing you know, leaves that person penniless. So
Yep.
there are sad stories, I'm sure, to this, and there are also foreigners who come here, they get married, and they can get swindled. They
Yeah.
can get stolen from, and because they moved the whole family in because they were asked to do so. So
Right.
foreigners, be careful. This is the law in this
Yeah.
country. And that's an interesting one for our number 3.
Crazy.
Now we're going to get to the real good ones.
The juicy ones.
The
Let's
juicy
go.
ones. Are
Let's
you ready?
go.
Number 2.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, we're going to talk about adultery. Did you
Okay.
know adultery is illegal in this country?
I could have guessed. I
Yes,
could have definitely
and I could have guessed that. But did you know it's completely different between men and women?
No, I did not know.
Well, here you go. Women can be charged with adultery,
Okay.
but men are charged with concubinage.
What?
Yeah.
What?
So, Article 333 and 334 of the revised Penal Code is where the law exists.
Wow.
In order for a husband to be charged with an extramarital affair in court,
Mhm.
it is extremely, extremely hard comparative to a woman being accused by a husband.
Wow.
A woman
unfair.
must prove one or all of the following.
Okay.
That he has kept a mistress in the conjugal dwelling, right? You might have noticed.
You know,
Just
I don't know. Would you notice? Like, could you imagine this whole time?
Yeah,
There's been
the spare room.
There's been a mistress, and I'd be like, what?
What?
That's where all the food is going.
And B, he shall have sexual intercourse with a woman who is not his wife under scandalous circumstances.
So it'd have to be a scandalous affair, not just
Apparently,
like,
like the
a
whole
very-
neighborhood found out about it.
Right.
Everybody at church found out about it, that kind of thing. And
Right.
so that's when you put in terms like that, you also set a bar that could be anywhere, right? You get in there and the judge has the bar at this level to meet.
Right.
Another judge will have the bar at this level.
It's like,
to
was
meet.
it your mother that he cheated on you with? That's
Right, that's
pretty scandalous.
right? Exactly. But is it somebody in a faraway city that nobody knew in your local
Right,
community? They
right.
might say that's not scandalous.
That's-
You never know. And then C, he shall cohabitate with her in any other place. So he has another apartment or
Oh,
something like
okay.
that, or pays her rent somewhere. And if you can,
Right.
but you have to prove.
Right. You
these
have
things
to
in
be
court.
like very detective
Yes,
in your lookings.
exactly. And where the other way around.
Yeah. What is it
Okay.
like for you?
Well, actually, before I do that, I should talk about what is the conviction. So if the husband is convicted, do you know what kind of sentence that husband might get?
A long one?
No, not very long at all. The sentence is 6 months to 4 years. The mistress of said husband will only be slapped with a banishment, which is 25 kilometers. It's called the
Okay.
stereo, by the way, and it's 25 kilometers from the family that is involved.
That's fair. I mean, why would
Right?
you want to
So
be
she
around
doesn't
them?
have so she has no charge if
Yeah.
the girl who's cheating on the husband.
Okay.
But are you ready for this?
Okay.
Okay. And then you have on the other hand, and this
Right.
is where you're going to say, whoa, that's unfair.
Right.
If the wife is cheating with another man, all the husband has to do is charge them both with adultery and just prove they had sexual intercourse.
Wow.
None of the ABCs or anything like that. In addition to that, each of them can be charged and sentenced to 2 to 6 years.
Both of them?
Both of them. Remember, the man, if he cheats, it's 6 months to 4 years.
Yeah, right. Right.
The female and the guy who cheats on with the female
Right. He gets in
is
trouble as
2
well.
years to 6 years in prison.
Mm.
Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. How could they possibly defend this? Well, the reason is here in this country, it is very important who your heir is and who is going to get your assets.
Right.
And so the reason for it is they say that an illicit affair between a wife and her partner could result in an illegitimate child who would become the unknowing husband's heir.
Right. Like,
And so they have a whole separate thing where they're like, wait a minute, that's almost like theft of future earnings or theft of future property, that kind of thing. And that's how they did it.
I see.
So that's a very interesting one at number 2.
I was going to say, because if you really didn't want your wife anymore, you could get a guy to say that he slept with her. But then you continued, and it says that both the guy and the wife will get charged. So no guy is gonna risk going to jail for 2 years in order to. Well, unless depends how much
I
he's
don't
paying.
know. I don't know.
So I feel like that can be abused. It's like, I don't want to see my wife for 6 years. Dude, can you just say that you did so I can just have a break?
And then he'll
And
go to
then-
jail too?
That's what I mean. Like, how much money are you paying?
Oh,
Because I
goodness.
would go to jail for a certain amount of
Well,
money.
all laws can be abused the other way for sure.
That's true.
And now we're going to get to the juicy one.
Okay. Number one?
Oh, yes.
Number one.
Oh, yes.
I'm ready.
This one is going to blow many of your minds.
Okay.
Now, some
I'm
Filipinos probably already know this one, but it's quite interesting. What's really interesting about this one is it's a weird law that allows you to either kill or physically injure somebody by law.
Wow.
Yes.
Legal.
Yep.
Legally?
Any legally married person who, having surprised his spouse in the act of committing sexual intercourse with another person shall kill any of them or both of them in the act or immediately thereafter, or shall inflict upon them any serious physical injury, shall suffer the penalty of only disterio. Remember what I said? That's banishment or exile,
Wow.
25 kilometers from the offending families. And the reason for that, the reason they're even doing that, is they're saying that it's for your own protection,
Right.
to keep you away from the families that will be living, the parents and that kind of thing, who might want to do some harm back to you because you
Right,
just
right.
killed their daughter,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
know? And so it's actually
son.
there to protect you, so they're making you move away, so diffuse the situation in
Right,
some
right.
way.
So there's no more tension. Well, I mean,
Right.
there's always going to be tension,
Well,
but at least you
yeah.
won't be walking through it.
Wow. So as a foreigner, again, from North America, you can't do that.
Yeah, no matter how angry you are when you catch your partner in bed, you cannot physically hurt
Or
or
kill them.
murder
Yeah.
anybody.
Okay. So now we're going to expand this. That already probably blew your mind,
Yeah.
but it's going to blow your mind further.
Yeah, I'm ready.
These same rules are also applicable under the same circumstances. So being surprised, walking in, for parents with respect to their daughters under the age of 18 years of age and their seducer while the daughters are living with their parents. So if you walk in as a parent and your daughter is having sex at 17 years old with another 17-year-old boy,
Right. Right.
you have the
should
right
l-
to
still-
kill or physically injure not just the seducer, but also your daughter.
I can't agree with this.
No, but it is the law of the land, and therefore, again, we are law-abiding citizens. We're not saying that we will.
I
never-
don't plan on.
But we're not going to be
anything, yeah.
participating in that at
Yeah.
all, because it's not going to be a situation
I
we're going
wonder-
to put ourselves in.
I wonder how often it's actually.
That is interesting. There are a lot of cases. I did look it up.
Yeah?
That this is used, but I believe they're mostly to do with the marriage.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's very.
It must be
one is
extremely
more,
exceptional. It's
yeah.
literally in the law. So I wonder. Obviously, there has been a situation, but
Oh yeah, I could understand, especially from like very like religious families, where like this would be seen as
yes.
important. But I don't know in modern day how used it is.
Yeah,
be fair.
exactly. So there you go. And there is the number one, and
Wow,
it is
that was
definitely
quite chaotic.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very interesting to hear.
Yeah. But
won't be
hey, maybe
cheating
that is
anytime
why
soon.
there isn't a lot of cheating comparative, like extramarital affairs,
Right,
compared to there is in
right.
the Western world,
Right.
where it is extremely
It's
common.
very common.
Very few people
Um,
can go through, 10, 20 years of dating, social, marriage
Yeah,
life, or whatever,
yeah.
and say they've never been cheated on.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it though.
Yeah.
Cheating.
Yeah. Obviously.
I don't think many people do.
No, of course not. Honestly, there's no excuse for it. But that's it. That's what we got.
We made it through.
We made it through. The rain has abated. The power did stay on, so that's
Very
pretty
good.
exciting.
Very good.
And we gave you guys an interesting episode, even though it's not a normal travel vlog. Hopefully you stayed right through to the end. Hopefully
Yeah.
you are
Number one was the
subscribed,
best.
by the way. Yeah, you like number one the
it
best.
was
yeah?
it was the most chaotic,
It
so
was.
I find it the most interesting.
Yes, definitely. And you don't plan to do any squatting or anything anyway.
No, it's
Right.
or cheating.
Or cheating. Yes.
Or
having
like
3 different
notorious
cars in
religious
Manila.
acts, notoriously scandal
Yes.
religious acts. I don't plan on doing that either.
Yes.
In front of religious people.
No, don't do that.
So
Okay.
I think I can follow all of these laws.
Well, that's good to hear. Good to hear. Well, I hope you enjoyed it anyway. It's a little bit different. I get it. But why not, right? Why not? Every once in a while, we're going to do these type of videos and reaction videos and that kind of thing just for the fun of it. And I hope you enjoyed it. See you all again. Thank you so much for stopping in.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.